COCO project was a series of different activities intended to show the difference of culture of the students at Coventry University and University de Haute-Alsace, or UHA, in Colmar. Of course, we all had to work together in order to undergo these activities, both within our groups in Coventry and also with the corresponding groups at UHA. The aim of this project was to improve our intercultural awareness through varying different activities, including the comparison of both Coventry and Colmar in terms of history, facts about the area, and how the area is now, as well as cultural perceptions and norms through questionnaires, word association, and sentence completion. Also, stereotypes. French stereotypes of the British, and British stereotypes of the French. Stereotypes are very important nowadays due to them being in the mainstream media. Everywhere we look, that's what we see. Unless we have any alternate information of the people of that nation or those people, we don't actually realise that we associate these stereotypes with those people. So, in order to, unless we actually know anything to the contrary, we just associate that automatically. As well as all this, we signed a method with our French counterparts so that we could message them in French to improve our French, and they would then respond in English in order to improve their English. As we're all French students, this is very beneficial as we could practice our written French and also our thinking on the spot to come up with an answer to our statements.
To start our group work, we were given the task of creating a video to introduce ourselves to our partners in Colmar. We were given the choice of either creating the video in French or English. However, due to the fact we were all French students, we thought it was most appropriate to create our video in French. Creating the video in French would help us to improve our French and would allow our fellow French partners to appreciate the fact that we've created the video in French. As a group, we decided to talk about our university and our town, which would be the most interesting topic. Therefore, each member of our group did a substantial amount of research on Coventry, the past, the present, and we were then able to put the research together, eliminating the facts that we didn't need and putting the key points together. To make it easier working as a group, we all gave input into how we wanted the layout of the video to be, and we came to a decision that we would prefer to have our voices recorded and then the pictures of Coventry, we would use it as a background in the presentation. We were able to learn that we can overcome obstacles such as not wanting our faces to be in the video, so we would use pictures instead. We were able to come together as a group very quickly and start working on the project as soon as we were given deadlines. We received very positive feedback from our partners in Colmar. They felt very informed about our town and university. However, being engineering students, they were able to identify some technical issues with our video, which we will then be able to work on and improve in the future in video and presentations.
Task 2 was a language-based activity where we had to complete various sentences and quickly respond to word associations. Comparing the French and English responses is very interesting. Firstly, we'll look at the sentences. For the English, a well-behaved teenager is somebody who studies and listens to their parents, and for the French, it is someone who is respectful and polite. A good boss is someone who respects and delegates parts of the work to his employees, but for the French, it's somebody who respects the employees and pays well. A good teacher is someone who can help a student and find solutions to a problem, but for the French, a good teacher is someone who can just explain things well. For word association, there are words that are mentioned on both lists but are more key to the French students compared to the English students. Power or pouvoir is the largest word on both associations. It's interesting because this could infer that they're both equally important to both the English and the French. Like power, money or argent is equally sized on both association charts. Love or amour is on both, but love is bigger on the English than on the French. This could infer that to the English, love is more important, whether it's familial, friends, or romantic. In contrast, there are words that appear on one chart and not the other. For example, on the French chart, the word loi, which means law, it appears on their chart, but appears nowhere on the English chart. What we learnt on this task was the purpose was to learn and compare the differences between French and English culture and the use of language. Luckily, there weren't any big challenges, as it was down to each person to complete the task online. The French responses were very similar to each other for most of the questions, but there were associations where some English responses were quite different, and it is interesting to see that there are some significant differences between the English and the French.
The activity's three objectives were to interview our French partners online and discuss a range of aspects about culture, differences between our original cultures and cultures of our partners represented in this collaboration. We had to interview the students in France as a group. They were able to use any internet devices as either speaking through Skype, Google Hangouts, or in writing through email, WhatsApp, Viber, etc. We have chosen email as a way to communicate with our partners since our group found this as the easiest form of corresponding. Then from 9 topics we picked popular music in Colmar and Coventry to find out if the music preferences are different between both countries and students' experience, as we were curious about students' daily life in France. We have asked them questions about favorite music, what application they use to listen to music, where and how far they live, how often they go out, and how they spend their free time. In general, answers were similar. Most of our partners listen to rock, sometimes pop, or they do not have preferences. They prefer to listen to music home than listen to it live. Mostly they live close to university. The interesting thing is that French students do not have seminars. Later group in Colmar asked us questions about British customs, for example, stereotypes, for example, tea time, and about French humor, where our answer said that we cannot notice any specific French type of humor.
So there are a few problems that we faced with the Colmar group. First of all, it took a while to collect our responses. We understand that the group had to find a suitable time for each other to meet up, for example, in lesson time, maybe the only time that they could get together. And we weren't expecting an instant response. However, we did have to wait more than a week sometimes, which was a bit inconvenient for us when we had seminars and we were trying to work together. We didn't have much to do as we were waiting for their responses. Also, we tried to reply to our emails as soon as we could, which meant that some students were quite rude as they were getting quite impatient. For example, the group video, which took a while to put together, it's not instant. We did get a few emails saying like, where are you? Why don't you reply? Also, we had a few issues with the camera quality and the accents of the other group, the French group. However, it wasn't essential for comparison. And finally, we had problems with the responses that we got back were quite short from the interview, which meant it was difficult to analyse because they didn't give much justification. For example, when we asked them do they prefer French or English music, the response was both. And how far they live from the university, which one response was 0 kilometres, which gives us very little understanding of their culture, as we thought that our questions were fairly open-ended and which gave them a chance to develop their opinions and give us an insight into their culture. However, they failed to do that, which was quite difficult for us to understand how they enjoy their student experiences and their opinions on popular culture.
We also faced some challenges within our own group. So, for example, at the start of the semester, several people started to not turn up to the seminar. However, we filled them in on everything that had happened over the internet, on sites like Facebook. And also, our team coordinator sent us weekly updates via our school email to update us on every important facet of the activity. We delegated sections of the project to each member of the team in order to produce our best collective work. For example, some of the most important of these went to Dominic here, who was in charge of directing the video for our Colmar counterparts and the chief editor of it, while Colette put forward this presentation here and organised our very disparate timetables into slots where we could work together. One of our members joined the team very late indeed, so we had to fill her in on everything that had happened up until that point. As well as that, the deadlines for certain sections of the project were sometimes too soon for our liking, too sudden, like we were given maybe 3 days to put forward the whole thing, I think it was actually 2. Sometimes they were very undefined dates, which forced us to hand in some of our projects, like the video, much later than we had hoped for, beyond the deadline. However, we overcame this and we became more organised as the semester went along, and eventually we finished our final presentation with a week and a half to spare. Through overcoming these hurdles, we learned that everyone in the group must contribute and partake in the project in order to for the overall project to be effective and reflect everyone's individual contributions. And we also learned the importance of the organisation of our very disparate timetables and specialisation.
So I was going to talk about the experience, the whole process, like how we felt and what we gained from it, and some of the actual tasks that we did. How we felt was we could all agree that it was interesting to find out about the stereotypes for French people towards English and English towards French. And it was also being able to communicate with the French people. The fact that they're fluent in French and we're studying French, it sort of helps us with our studies. So that was also a good thing that we could take from it. However, some of the actual tasks that we've completed were a little bit boring. You know, could be a bit more interesting because the people who we communicate with are sort of around the same age as us. So sort of receiving the same responses as what we would have thought, that wasn't really as interesting as it perhaps could have been. But whereas working as a group is concerned, it was quite fun, you know. However, the organisation was a bit bad at times. But overall, I feel like we've all gained something from it. We can all agree that we got along really well. And yeah, it's been good. But what we've taken from it is the fact we've maybe gained some organisational skills. Because that comes along with group work and organising people together. Coming together 7 times around our timetables. And also presentation skills is also a big part of it. Being able to communicate with other people that perhaps we get to see face to face through things like presentations, which is a good skill to have. And also communicating skills, that's also very important. And again, communicating with people you don't get to see face to face. And lastly, perhaps teamwork. Working with a team, organising yourself together, getting your work done, delegating all the different tasks to people, make sure you all get collective work, and it's all to a good standard.